Make sure you guys are please liking this video. If you're just joining, well, let me know if you can hear me first off. This is my first live stream on here. I am making cuts of mushroom in order to make some mushroom jerky. And I'm trying a new technique. And so this is all going to be made into mushroom jerky. I love beef jerky, but I also love mushroom jerky. So typically what I do is I'll take this and I'll cut it long ways, but we're changing it up. Usually I cut it like this. Move this out of the way. Yeah, Nasty, I agree. So to my right, your left, I do have a growing tent over here, and I recently just grew some pink oyster mushrooms, and I just grew some lion's mane. Morels are delicious. I think you can buy a morel growing kit, if I remember correctly. I have yet to find a morel in the actual wild, though. I found a bunch of other mushrooms, but never one of those. Have you ever found one in the wild? Honestly, my favorite mushroom so far has been king oyster. That might be an unpopular opinion, but I feel like you can do so much more with king oyster. King oyster and lion's mane as well. What's up, Greg? Never found more. I've only found them at farmers markets. We find them in the fire burner, Oregon, and NorCal. Nice. Well, yeah, you guys are perfect temperature there for some mushrooms. So yeah, this time around, I'm gonna try to change up my recipe for some jerky. And I'm trying to get the most I can out of just 2 mushrooms. Right here. Just the chanterelles. Yeah. I'm trying to think what else. I have so many mushrooms where I'm at, but a lot of unedible mushrooms. A lot of chicken of the woods. That would probably be the only one we have. But every time I find chicken of the woods, I always feel like I have spiders littered all over them. I have some weird mushrooms growing out in my yard, big white ones. Have you been able to identify them? They might just be called big white mushrooms. There's puffballs and peasants. Yeah, puffballs. Those are good ones. I don't have any of them where I'm at. I've always wanted to know what they taste like. They start out as a ball. They might be puffballs. Are they the size of a basketball? See, I never know what to do with these right here. If you try to turn these into mushroom jerky, they're way too thick. And they're just going to be soggy. They're not going to smoke well. But I think these will do really well. Right here. So this is just from one. Right here. They're bland. Oof. Well, just put some salt, pepper, garlic, and I'm sure they'll be good. They're about the size of my hand at full grown. That's a good one right there. Well, I wonder what kind of mushroom it actually is. Again, it might be just a white mushroom. Not to make things too complicated. So just out of curiosity, how did you guys see this live stream? Because this is also kind of a test live. Basically, my goal is on this channel is to sort of create a live cooking mushroom type show on here. I don't think anyone's ever actually done that. But I like to do it on vertical. This right here is your ideal size for jerky. This and this. I will look to see, Nasty says, I will look to see if I still have my portobello recipe for when Date's vegetarian. What is that mushroom you're cutting? Nasty, I am cutting a good old king oyster. In my opinion, king oysters, they can be a little bland, but that's actually perfect for me when you're making mushroom jerky so that I can control the flavor. I wanted to make mushroom jerky with pink oyster mushrooms and lion's mane, but I feel like they take over a little too much. And also with king oyster, you can really control the texture, in my opinion. And so what I'm doing is a little experimental. Typically, I like to make it like this, but I'm going to try it like this when I throw it on the smoker. A little different. Just got back from trivia night. I hope you won. When you say it popped up on your feed, was it your shorts feed? Because I'm also trying to figure that out. Apparently, if I go live like this, I can pop up on a shorts feed. Who knows, though? What do I know? Man, I haven't been to trivia in forever. The best thing I ever won from trivia was Molson beer. Does anyone even know what Molson beer is? We're talking about a very niche beer that I think you can only find in one part of the country. Let's cut like this. I was watching the newscast and it came across my notifications. Really cool. The shorts feed. Yeah, we won 60 bucks, Molson and Canadian beer. It's right, Molson is Canadian beer. And I am willing to bet nobody knows what Molson beer is unless you live on the northern part of the United States. It showed up on my TV. Wow. Interesting. Yeah, this is how big you don't want to make it. Way too thick. It's going to take about 9 years to turn this into mushroom jerky. Have you guys ever made mushroom jerky? Pennsylvania, that's right. So you know what Molson is. And I have another unpopular opinion. I actually hate this part of the king oyster mushroom, the top of it. I don't know why. Never been a fan. Pennsylvania is a very underrated state. However, you do have some toll booths out there that make absolutely no sense when it comes to Pennsylvania toll booths. You probably know that. See, you almost want to treat mushroom jerky like it's a brisket when you do the bend test. That's good. That's bad. See the difference? It's the slightest difference ever, but in the smoker and the dehydrator, this will shrivel up to nothing. We have a problem with a Dem majority. What's his name? Fetterman. You got Fetterman. I don't even know what he is anymore. I don't think he knows what he is anymore. My dad would buy my mom Molson beer when the other cheap stuff was sold out. Interesting. So, are you saying when Keystone Light was sold out, do you go to Molson beer? Because I always thought Molson beer was supposed to be like a cheaper beer in general, which is why you would win that in like a trivia night. And by the way, I won Molson beer about 10 years ago. I'm just assuming they're still in business. I'm just assuming it's impossible for any brewery to go out of business because I figured everybody wants a beer regardless. It's only the oldest commodity in the history of commodities. This is a bad piece right here. If I threw this in the smoker, this would cost me about $300 of material to try and break this down. Yeah, so Nasty, I don't know if you know this, but I actually have a video on how I make my mushroom jerky. So, I am not a fan. Oh, sorry, let me read your full comment. I make a lot of my own bone with the Instapot. Just butchered a steer, making bone broth with all the ribs. Keystone Light is still my go-to. Hey, Keystone is good. And also, that's amazing you did that. You must have a lot of land where you're at, or you live on a farm. So I'm assuming you're referring to this. I am not a fan of soaking my mushrooms in any sort of marinade. Some people love it, but I don't, because to me, you're supposed to be dehydrating these when it comes to turning it into jerky. I'm an old school kind of guy. I like to do things the way they did it back in 3000 BC. No, so what I do is I take a glaze and I glaze the top of it very lightly, and then the smoke and the dehydrator will actually sort of crisp that up, and it all forms together. But I have seen, when I got into making mushroom jerky, I saw some people will take all of their mushrooms and like just soak it into a massive vat. And then I've also seen some people take their mushrooms and chop it all up and turn it into a massive mash. And at that point, I mean, I don't even know what we're calling that anymore. Look, you can do whatever you want, but I like to make things look kind of decent looking. Do you guys have Wegmans in Pennsylvania? Or no, what does Pennsylvania have? Sheetz. Right? Sheetz is the best gas station in the history of gas stations. San Diego. Shout out San Diego. Never been there. Greg says Wawa is better. Man, I have traveled so much when I was in the Army, and you're not gonna like me, Greg. I apologize. I am just not a fan of Wawa. I think Wawa does a really good job for seasonal stuff. Like, doesn't the Wawa do a Thanksgiving sandwich where they just throw everything onto everything? Like stuffing, turkey, gravy, if I remember correctly. So you got to give credit is due. If a gas station is gonna make if a gas station is gonna make a Thanksgiving sandwich, I mean that's top tier. But in my opinion, I think every Sheetz that I've been to has been good quality. That is just my opinion, and I am not sponsored by Sheetz. I have gone to some sketchy Wawas more than I've been to sketchy Sheetz. Would you agree with that statement, Greg, that there tend to be more sketchy Wawas than sketchy Sheetz? And I think that might be because there are more Wawas. So you kind of turn into a Dollar General situation where you're just, that's an open plot, let's build something there. Depends on the area. I also want to preface, the only time I eat Sheetz is when I'm driving through Pennsylvania, so it's typically off of a highway. But if I lived in Pennsylvania in a small town that had a Sheetz, I would be broke. I would eat there every day. In fact, I would probably just work there at that point. FYI, I ordered lion's mane from North Spore today. Very cool, Alex. I have some lion's mane in my grow tent right next to me that I don't have enough room to put right here. But yeah, lion's mane, good. Have you ever worked with lion's mane before? Because it's kind of unlike some other mushrooms when you go to cook them, assuming you're going to eat it, which you don't have to, but... Yeah, Greg. Um, what's it called? Isn't it the voodoo seasoning? You can get the voodoo seasoning fries. Also, I forgot to mention this part. Typically when I have sheets, it's after like a 13-hour road trip, and so at that point, you know, when you can press whatever you want on to order your sandwich, I just push everything at that point. And so when I say sheets is better, I really want to preface this by saying I've been to bad Wawas, I've been to good sheets, but I've been to good sheets at 4 o'clock in the morning after 14-hour road trips. So they kind of even out at that point. Never found a lion's mane, just the Chantels, puffballs, and peasants. Yeah, lion's mane I think typically will grow on oak, hardwood, but under very certain parameters of like temperature. I'm not like a pro at that, at knowing the exact specifics. But I can tell you in my grow tent, I have it set to 80% humidity to 85% humidity. And I keep the temp in this room where I grow my mushrooms at 65 degrees. And I have constant airflow as well. I really would like a video on your mushroom growing. I have a hippie commune down in Wattsville, California that service their generators that have been trying to get it right. I would actually say North Spore has really good videos. There's some really good people on YouTube that are so underrated when it comes to growing. With my channel here, and if you're new here, make sure to please subscribe and make sure to like the live stream. I've noticed nobody shows you guys how to cook the mushrooms. Like, everybody is amazing at growing mushrooms, but I don't think I can find anyone who's actually showing you how to cook mushrooms or how to do anything fun with mushrooms. And so I'm like, I'm just gonna do that because I do that anyway, and I have the equipment to show you guys how to do that. Greg says, a good friend of mine talks highly of you, Climatics. Yes, Climatics. I forgot when I met Climatics, but yeah, Cly. Good man. Shout out to him. We get those ghost pipe things around here too. That's very cool. 65 degrees, 75 humidity. Yes, those are the stats in order to grow my lion's mane. And I currently have 2 lion's mane. They're about like this big, which this is very scientific for the mushroom community. This big of a lion's mane took me about a week and a half. And I probably could grow them more if I set the humidity a higher, in my opinion. But they peaked out. They already start to get like, when they start to get yellowish and they feel a little spongy, that's when you sort of know you're done. Also with mushrooms, you really have to use all your senses if you guys are unaware. To like poke it and smell it. Smelling especially is a big one. But I have lion's mane right now, and they're not looking that great if I'm being honest with you. These are the flushed lion's mane. So I removed the main lion's mane in my fridge, and the ones I have here are the ones that are growing up after them, and they're just not looking as good. Old Man of the Woods does sometimes, but I haven't seen him post anything new in a while. And you know what? That's something else I noticed about the mushroom community on YouTube. They'll just make like one good video, and then they'll leave. They just never come back. So I don't know what they're doing, but they just sort of show up. They're like, this is how you make really cool mushrooms, and we'll see you later in 5 years. And then they show up and have a beard and a really cool hat. But that's been my experience with the mushroom community on YouTube so far. Yeah, so this is pretty much a waste right here. We got a lot out of just 2. So this is just 2. That's a lot. And if I was to chop these the other way, we're talking about days of mushroom here. But yeah, so some people would take this and they would soak it. I don't want to do that. In fact, if you ever get the time to do what I'm doing and just feel the mushrooms, you can literally feel the moisture. Like they're literally just wet. And so again, I understand the theory behind marinating and marinating in general. You want to penetrate your mushroom, but because mushrooms are already moist, I don't actually see that being a good tactic to make some jerky. Are you close to being monetized on this channel? I just started this channel 4 days ago, and the answer is no. I am not. All right. I'm actually surprised how many good ones we got, but a lot of these are going to end up pretty bad. That's the only bad thing about mushroom jerky. Like this one right here, it doesn't do too well on the flippy floppy test. That's what it's actually called, a flippy floppy test. And so it's just going to shrivel up into like this when it's done. But it's going to be a nice crispy one. Nah, getting monetized on YouTube can take a long time. Have you had good follow from the M-SPLY channel? Yes, I would say so. It was funny to me. Well, first off, I think everybody likes food in general. I was actually shocked how many people like mushrooms. It's one of those things that I guess you don't go out of your way to tell people. Like you would typically tell somebody I love burgers or hot dogs and french fries. But I can't remember anybody ever being like, I really like mushrooms. But it turns out a lot of people actually do like mushrooms. But yeah, the following from M-SPLY has been pretty fun. I have posted on M-SPLY for almost 2 years. No, for 2 years in a row, 2 to 3 videos a day. For 2 years in a row, every single day. And so, you know, sometimes you got to cut up some mushrooms. I don't like mushrooms, but my wife does. Nice. Pretty sure the universe is a mushroom. I watch all of M-SPLY. Well, I appreciate it, Greg. Yeah, unfortunately for like conservative media in general on YouTube, the New York Times put out an article showing how like everyone's views have plummeted. So yeah, that's just how it goes. I started politics when Kamala was running. Well, I appreciate it. M-SPLY has had quite the evolution of like content. Last year, I don't know how long you guys have been subscribed to my channel, but last year was like Portland. Portland consumed my life. The cities of Portland, Chicago, about 9 months. So 9 months. So you would have been following me. What's the math on that? I don't remember what I was reporting 9 months ago. Was I reporting on Portland? About 6 months, took a header and had to make a new YouTube and found you. Really cool. November-ish. Yes, Portland. Yeah. That was quite a wild time. And I'll be honest with you, I never imagined what everything would turn out to be today, if I'm being honest with you. Have you reviewed Pineland Farms for Mushrooms live classes? I have not. But I will note that. Thank you for the name. Pineland Farms. I don't know who that is. Or I do, and I just can't recall the name. What type of mushrooms are you cutting up right now? That's a great question. These are only 2 king oyster mushrooms. But I am making mushroom jerky. You can actually find king oyster mushrooms at Kroger. I've never seen it at Walmart. For those of you who don't live in the South, for the 2 people from Pennsylvania in here, Kroger is like a nicer version than Walmart, I guess, depending on. Yes, Nasty, I saw that. Yep, Nasty, I made a video on that 2 days ago. Maybe even 3 days ago. Thank you for that. I found them in a Philippines market. Very cool. And you can also grow kit your own oyster mushrooms, but to be honest with you, that would sort of be a complete waste of money and time because you can buy them anywhere. If you're going to do grow kits, you're going to want to do like lion's mane, to be honest with you, or blue oysters. These are like gourmet mushrooms. And the other thing about mushrooms people forget about is sustainability, or like how long they keep well in the refrigerator. If you grow pink oyster mushrooms, which I did, they went bad in literally 2 days in the fridge. They grew perfect. I mean, they grow in like 7 days, beautiful mushrooms, but then they just pass away super fast. So you kind of have to pre-plan what you're going to do with those things. I think lion's mane lasts way longer. But they still get a little yellowish on the outside. Fresh is better, 100%. Yeah, you have to cook them very fast. However, for lion's mane, you're supposed to put them in a hot pan before you add anything else. So the very first time I cooked lion's mane, didn't have that issue. And then I grew my own lion's mane, and I put butter and oil, and the whole thing dissolved and just fell apart. Because it turns out you're supposed to put it in a hot pan and fry it really hot and kind of firm it all up, and then you can add what you want to add. Again, these are not things people seem to be talking about. Yes. Let me see if I can turn this camera. Turning. I actually have a little behind the scenes. It's on a mount where you can turn. So this right here. Oh, that's not it. That is a boom room. It's literally called a boom room. And that is from M-SPLY. The company is called M-SPLY. And this cost $500, and although that is a lot of money, what you can do with it, you can get your money back and how much you can grow and get out of this. And so, so the reason why it costs a lot of money is you see this little thing right here in the middle that is a sensor that hooks up to here, which is hooked up to this unit down here. The little white box you see right there is a humidifier, and it shoots moisture into the tent at your designated like humidity. It's really cool. Now I'm just trying to lower this back. There we go. I think that worked. There we go. Let me do this. Thank you, Jesse. Yeah. And so that sensor is hooked up to that white box, and then it'll kick on to hit your designated moisture. And then I didn't show you, but at the bottom of the tent, you have airflow. So there's air sucking out and moisture being pushed in, and it creates like a loop. And so with the grow tent and like professional growers on like a bigger level, this is kind of like the secret sauce that mushroom growers will either talk about or not talk about, depending on if they're selling mushrooms for like massive profit at like a local farmer's market or in general. Depending on the dialing of the circulation, you can really maximize how fast these mushrooms grow. And of course, the temperature of your area. So I'm in a 65-degree room, which to me has always worked out perfect for how fast I like to grow mushrooms. And on paper, you would think you want to grow as fast as possible, but that's not actually always the good thing, because if you have too many mushrooms, again, you have to store them, and then depending on what mushrooms you have, they start to die off if you don't have the proper, like if you're growing pink oyster, again, they die in 2 days, lion's mane, they don't, so. It's quite the science. But yeah, I was a little worried with the purchase, but I ended up actually really, really liking it a lot. The setup, I'm just going to be honest, to M-SPLY, they got to update their setup just a little bit. It can be a little annoying to set up. Nasty says, not sure how I missed your video on it. I'm usually pretty good about catching your stuff. So back to mushrooms, how tough is the jerky when you're done? The jerky is, so like, I'll show you right here. You can pull this apart really easily. When the mushrooms are done the way that I do it, it's like you really have to pull it. Not like crazy amount, but you have to pull it a good amount. And then the other trick that I do is I actually will like, I don't have a microphone on me, so you can't hear the difference. When you drop these on the ground, you can't hear anything because it's like a sponge. When you drop the mushrooms that I make, it sounds like, you know, plasticky. And that's how I know they're done. Again, it's a very unconventional method, and it's a very like, that's how I do it, but that's literally how I do it. So if you imagine in your head, if you were to go buy some beef jerky and you drop it on this and it kind of makes like a clicky noise, there you go. Climatics. Thanks, bro. This is great. Yeah, Climatics. Greg is here. Greg said that you said some nice things about me, so I appreciate it. I don't know what you said, though. I was told nice things. Yeah, Cly, we're making mushroom jerky. Well, tomorrow I'll be putting this together. For now, I'm making the old thingy here. I'm also trying to figure out how this all works for YouTube as far as the shorts feed. Yeah, Greg's in here. My bad. I thought you saw that. I was like, good mushroom. What's up, bro? Yeah, Clyde, we were just talking about how a lot of people like mushrooms, but nobody knows that. And my theory is because I've never in my life ever said, hey, are you a fan of mushrooms? You typically ask, what's your favorite steak? Not what's your favorite mushroom. I like my portobello mushrooms medium rare. Said no one ever. But yeah, Cly, good to see you, bro. Good to see everybody. So we'll see what happens with this channel. Again, it's a lot different than M-SPLY, but I think I needed something a little bit different, to be honest with you. And shout out the people from Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania gang. There you go. All right, so we pretty much have everything we need right there. Pretty good stuff. I'm really happy with this. Yeah, it needed a change of pace, for sure. Also, I don't have a team, so I edit and I record and I write and I research. Like after this, I'm going to be researching for M-SPLY tomorrow. I didn't know you can make jerky out of mushrooms. Oh, dude, you can make anything out of mushrooms. Like, I think you can literally, like, make anything. Like, you can take this and turn it into a ground meat and then mash it together and, like, make burgers. You can do a lot. Which, one day I'll do that, I think. We'll see. But, alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. I'm probably going to go live tomorrow as well. Again, I kind of want to experiment with the shorts live stream and see what that looks like and see how that works out. Just to possibly reach a new audience. And, yeah, we'll see. All right, everybody. Thank you guys so much for everything, and we will see you all later. I will see you guys tomorrow on M-SPLY and M-SPLY and everything else. But I don't know how to exit out because I've never done this before. Let me see how I do this. No, it wants me to play video games. Oh, there we go. All right, love you guys. Good